Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they've never installed the one system that makes success inevitable, a discipline code that outlives motivation. Napoleon Hill studied thousands of the world's most successful people, and what he discovered was simple. Winners don't wait for habits to form naturally, they install them deliberately. And yet, the majority never do this. They drift. They dabble. They wait for the perfect time. And that's why they fail. The root of failure. Look closely at the patterns of the 80%. They all look different on the surface, but underneath, they share the same fatal flaw: no structure for success. They start strong, but without a system, they fizzle out. They set big goals, but without habits, they collapse under pressure. They dream loudly, but without daily discipline, they stay stuck. This is not bad luck. This is poor design. Failure is not random, it is engineered by weak habits. The myth of motivation. You've been told that motivation is the key. That if you feel inspired enough, you'll follow through. But motivation is fragile. It burns hot, then fades. That's why you start a diet and quit. That's why you launch a project and abandon it. That's why you set resolutions and never return to them. Because you were relying on a fuel that was never meant to last. The truth is clear: motivation starts, but only habit sustains. Napoleon Hill's warning. Hill wrote, "You are where you are because of your established habits. Not because of luck. Not because of talent. Not because of chance. Your life is the sum of your habits. And if your habits are weak, your results will be weak." The drift effect. Here's what happens when you don't install Hill's habit code: you drift. Drift looks like this. Waking up without a plan. Reacting instead of creating. Starting things but never finishing. And drift is deadly because it feels harmless. You don't feel like you're failing, you feel like you're waiting. But waiting is failure in slow motion. The 20% who refuse to drift. The top 20% don't rely on motivation. They don't trust moods. They don't gamble on inspiration. They build codes, rules that anchor their habits no matter what. When motivation dies, the code takes over. When emotions waver, the code executes. When doubt creeps in, the code refuses to break. That's why they win and why the 80% don't. Your first shift. From this moment, you stop asking, "How do I stay motivated?" Instead, you ask, "What habit code must I install so failure is no longer possible?" That's the shift. From drift to design. From chance to certainty. From failure to inevitability. And it begins right now. Most people fail not because they never try, but because they try in the wrong way. They start with passion but never create permanence. They set goals but never install the systems that make those goals non-negotiable. And when you study their behavior, you see 3 repeating traps, 3 reasons they never install Hill's habit code. Trap 1, the illusion of someday. They tell themselves, "I'll start when I have more time. I'll get serious when life settles down. I'll install new habits when things feel right." But life never hands you the perfect time. Waiting for someday guarantees you'll still be waiting 10 years from now. Hill warned of this drift. Procrastination, the opposite of decision, is a common enemy which practically every person must conquer. Those who wait, fail. Those who decide, build. Trap 2, the addiction to motivation. The second trap is chasing the high of inspiration. They binge motivational videos. They attend seminars. They buy new planners. And for a moment, they feel unstoppable. But the high fades. The feelings vanish. And because they never installed habits, their results collapse. Motivation is a spark, not a system. Without a system, the fire dies. Trap 3, the comfort of excuses. The third trap is the most dangerous: excuses disguised as logic. "I can't wake up early, I'm not a morning person." I can't save money, I don't earn enough yet. I can't focus daily, I'm just wired differently. Excuses feel reasonable, but they are fatal. Each one delays the discipline code another day. And each day delayed compounds failure. The compound effect of traps. When you combine these three traps, waiting for someday, chasing motivation, clinging to excuses, you engineer mediocrity. Not instantly. Not dramatically. But slowly, invisibly, until one day you wake up and realize years have passed and nothing has changed. That's why most people fail. The 20% break the traps. The few who succeed refuse these traps. They don't wait for the perfect time, they create time. They don't rely on moods, they rely on systems. They don't excuse themselves, they discipline themselves. And because of that, they become unstoppable. Your next step. If you want wealth, discipline, and freedom, you must confront these traps head-on. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Because the longer you wait, the deeper they sink their claws into your identity. Napoleon Hill didn't just talk about success in vague terms. He dissected it, studied it, and extracted a habit code that anyone could install. And when you strip it down, his code comes down to 3 pillars. Definiteness of purpose. Daily discipline. Persistence until results appear. These 3, when locked together, form the engine of wealth, power, and resilience. Pillar 1, definiteness of purpose. Hill taught that drifting is the enemy of progress. Most people never decide what they truly want, so their habits have no anchor. Definiteness of purpose means this: you pick a direction so clearly that every daily habit points toward it. Without that clarity, your habits scatter. With it, your habits compound. Hill wrote, "The starting point of all achievement is definiteness of purpose. Without it, you're a wanderer. With it, you're a builder." Pillar 2, daily discipline. Once the purpose is set, the next step is to bind it into daily discipline. You can't just hope your life aligns. You must engineer habits that make success automatic. If your purpose is wealth, daily discipline might mean saving before spending, investing before consuming. If your purpose is freedom, daily discipline might mean building skills relentlessly, every day. If your purpose is impact, daily discipline might mean producing, publishing, sharing, instead of consuming endlessly. Purpose without discipline is fantasy. Discipline without purpose is wasted energy. Together, they're unstoppable. Pillar 3, persistence until results appear. Here's the third part of Hill's habit code: you keep going until the results arrive. Most people quit too early. They mistake delay for denial. They assume that because it hasn't happened yet, it won't. But Hill observed the greats and saw the pattern. Most people have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure. Persistence is the bridge between effort and result. Without it, your habits never mature. With it, your habits become unbreakable and wealth inevitable. Why this code works? Think of these 3 as gears. Purpose turns the vision. Discipline turns the actions. Persistence turns the results. When all 3 lock together, you have a machine that never stalls. That machine doesn't need motivation. It doesn't depend on chance. It runs because you installed the code. Your next move. Stop asking, "What do I want in general?" Start declaring, "This is my purpose. These are my daily disciplines. And I will persist until the result is real." This is Hill's habit code. And when you install it, failure is no longer your future. If habits build your destiny, then why do most people sabotage their own? The answer is simple: they build weak cycles. They start with excitement, collapse under pressure, and then blame circumstances instead of their system. Napoleon Hill observed this self-sabotage again and again. People would set goals, take action, stumble once, and then abandon everything. Why? Because they never understood that habits are cycles and cycles must be protected, not casually abandoned. The weak habit loop. Here's what most people do. They begin with hype. A new year, a new plan, a burst of motivation. They feel unstoppable for a few days. They hit resistance. Life interrupts. They feel tired, stressed, or distracted. Suddenly, the habit feels like a burden instead of a choice. They break the chain. They miss one day, then two. Instead of recovering, they call it failure. The loop collapses, and they drift back to old patterns. This is why their progress is temporary. They built habits on feelings, not systems. The strong habit loop. The 20% who succeed do something radically different. They build resilient cycles. Their loop looks like this. Trigger a fixed cue that makes the habit automatic. Action a disciplined behavior tied to purpose, not mood. Reward a sense of progress or identity reinforced, not just pleasure. And when they miss, they recover instantly. One slip doesn't break the loop, it strengthens it, because they learn and adjust. Hill's correction principle. Hill insisted. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes great delight in tripping one when success is almost within reach. In other words, resistance is part of the process. Breaking once is not failing. Quitting after breaking once is failing. Winners protect their cycles. Losers abandon them. How to repair broken habits. Here's how you rebuild when your cycle breaks. 1. Stop the spiral. Don't dramatize one missed day. Call it what it is, a slip, not a sentence. 2. Recommit with speed. Act the next day or the same day if possible. Fast recovery proves discipline over delay. 3. Raise the standard. Instead of lowering the bar, strengthen the loop. Add friction to excuses. Make it easier to succeed than to fail. Macro-micro habit management. At the macro level, you commit to a vision. At the micro level, you protect the chain one action at a time. You don't let weakness compound. You let discipline compound. That's the difference between cycles that collapse and cycles that compound wealth. Your habit shield. From now on, you stop treating habits as experiments. You treat them as codes, living systems that must be protected at all costs. Because your future wealth is not built on hype. It's built on the loops you refuse to let die. Habits don't live in isolation. They live in environments. And the brutal truth is this: your environment is either installing discipline or erasing it. You don't rise above your surroundings. You default to them. If your environment is chaotic, your habits will be fragile. If your environment is designed, your habits will be automatic. The 80% environment of failure. Look at how most people live. Their phones buzz with endless distractions. Their desks are cluttered, filled with reminders of unfinished tasks. Their mornings are chaotic, starting with noise instead of focus. And then they wonder why they can't build discipline. It's because their environment is screaming plan B, disorder, excuses, and escape hatches everywhere. The 20% design discipline environments. The successful minority understand a secret: make the desired action frictionless and the excuse impossible. They place their workout gear next to the bed, so training is automatic. They keep a journal on the desk, so reflection is a default. They delete distractions from their phone, so focus is the only option. They don't wait for willpower. They engineer triggers. Napoleon Hill's principle of suggestion. Hill emphasized the power of suggestion and environment. The subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thoughts. It works with the material we feed it. Your environment is a constant feed. Clutter feeds confusion. Distraction feeds drift. Structure feeds discipline. Trigger engineering. Here's how you install automatic cues. 1. Link habits to anchors. Tie your new habit to something you already do. Example: after brushing your teeth, write one line in your journal. After making coffee, review your goals. 2. Use visual triggers. Place reminders in your line of sight. Don't rely on memory, rely on visibility. 3. Remove negative triggers. If junk food is in the house, you'll eat it. If your phone is in reach, you'll scroll. Remove what weakens discipline. Macro-micro design. At the macro level, you design an environment aligned with your wealth goals. At the micro level, you make small adjustments that turn habits from effort into autopilot. One small design change can shift decades of drift. Your next step. Stop blaming yourself for weak willpower. Start blaming and changing the environment that keeps breaking your habits. Because once you design the environment, discipline stops being a fight. It becomes the only option. Big wins are built on small victories. But most people dismiss the small, thinking it's insignificant. They want the transformation overnight, the success in a week, the wealth in a season. And that's why they fail. The truth is simple: discipline compounds through micro wins. And once those wins stack, they hardwire habits into your identity. The 80% ignore small progress. The majority overlook the little victories. They read one page and say, "That's nothing." They save $10 and laugh at how small it feels. They do one workout and tell themselves it's not enough. Because they can't see the immediate result, they abandon the action. And by doing so, they kill the compound effect before it begins. The 20% protect small wins. The disciplined few treat small wins as sacred. One page read proves consistency. $10 saved proves control. One workout proves resilience. They know every action is a vote for identity. Each small win whispers to the subconscious, "This is who I am." And when those whispers stack, they roar into unshakable discipline. Napoleon Hill's guidance. Hill emphasized, "Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have at your command." That's the essence of small wins. You don't wait for massive resources. You start with what you have. And once you start, you never stop. The micro-win formula. Here's how to weaponize small victories. 1. Define the minimum standard. Pick a baseline habit so simple you cannot fail. Example: write one sentence a day, save 1 coin a day, do 1 push-up a day. 2. Track the chain. Record each completion. Watch the streak grow. Streaks create emotional momentum. 3. Raise the ceiling, never the floor. Keep the baseline simple, but allow expansion. 1 push-up can become 10. 1 sentence can become a page. But never lower the floor. Macro, micro, macro. At the macro level, you want wealth, success, and freedom. At the micro level, you build one win at a time. And when enough wins stack, they create a macro identity. I am disciplined. I finish what I start. I cannot fail. That's the identity shift that most people miss, and that's why they stay stuck. Your next step. Stop mocking small wins. Start honoring them as the foundation of your future. Because your wealth will not arrive in one giant leap. It will arrive in hundreds of small victories that compound into unstoppable momentum. The world is obsessed with speed. Fast results. Overnight success. Quick hacks. But here's the truth: speed without persistence is wasted energy. Most people fail not because they don't move fast enough, but because they don't move long enough. They sprint at the start, collapse in the middle, and disappear before the finish. Wealth, discipline, mastery, none of these are sprint games. They are persistence games. The 80% burn out early. The majority fall into this trap. They sprint into a new routine with unsustainable energy. They expect massive results in weeks instead of years. They crash the moment progress slows. They mistake delay for denial. They confuse gradual growth with failure. And because they lack persistence, they abandon the path right before the breakthrough. The 20% choose endurance. The disciplined few take a different approach. They pace themselves. They focus on what can be sustained daily, not just what can be done when motivation peaks. They accept that wealth is a marathon, and discipline is the fuel tank that never runs dry. For them, slow progress is not discouragement. It's confirmation. It means the system is working. Napoleon Hill on persistence. Hill devoted an entire chapter to persistence in Think and Grow Rich. He wrote, "There is no substitute for persistence." The person who makes persistence his watchword discovers that old man failure finally becomes tired, and makes his departure. Failure quits before the persistent do. That is why persistence always wins. The persistence engine. Here's how persistence turns discipline into wealth. 1. Small wins compound. What feels like little today becomes massive tomorrow when repeated without break. 2. Resistance weakens. The longer you persist, the quieter excuses become. Your brain learns quitting is not an option. 3. Identity strengthens. Persistence ingrains, I am the person who keeps going no matter what. When that belief locks in, wealth is inevitable. The PACE formula. Here's how to avoid burnout and stay persistent. Lower the floor, raise the ceiling, keep minimum habits small but scalable. Honor consistency over intensity, better to do less daily than crash from overdoing. Measure streaks, not spurts, count how long you've stayed consistent, not how fast you started. Macro-micro persistence. At the macro level, persistence builds the story of your life. At the micro level, persistence is simply refusing to skip today. When today is honored, tomorrow takes care of itself. And when enough tomorrows stack, you wake up in a life most people only dream of. Your next step. Stop worshiping speed. Start worshiping persistence. Because persistence doesn't just build wealth. It builds a character so unshakable that wealth has no choice but to follow. Most people see resistance as the reason to stop. You felt it, those mornings when the alarm feels heavier than the bed, those evenings when discipline feels impossible, those days when everything seems against you. And this is where the split happens. The 80% retreat, but the 20% advance. The difference isn't talent. It's interpretation. Resistance can be your excuse or it can be your training ground. The 80% collapse in resistance. The majority fold under pressure. A tough week at work becomes an excuse to abandon routines. A single rejection becomes proof they should quit. A wave of fatigue convinces them their habits aren't working. They see resistance as evidence of failure, instead of evidence of progress. The 20% convert resistance into strength. The disciplined few take every obstacle as a rep in the gym. Struggle becomes weight training for resilience. Rejection becomes feedback for strategy. Fatigue becomes proof they are working the muscle of discipline. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They declare, this is happening for me. Napoleon Hill's wisdom. Hill observed, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Resistance is not a stop sign, it's a signal. The moment it shows up is the moment you know you're on the path worth walking. The adversity conversion protocol. Here's how to use resistance as a wealth-building ally. 1. Label it correctly. When difficulty shows up, call it what it is, training, not punishment. 2. Shrink the battle. Don't focus on the mountain. Focus on the next step. Resistance hates momentum, even in small doses. 3. Track the victories. Write down every time you overcame resistance. Build a log that proves you are stronger than excuses. Macro-micro transformation. At the macro level, resistance seasons refine your identity. At the micro level, they sharpen every decision you make under pressure. Each act of discipline under stress ingrains wealth deeper into your wiring. Your next step. Stop fearing resistance. Start embracing it as the ultimate signal, you are moving in the right direction. Because every time you push through resistance, you reinforce a truth the 80% never learn. Discipline grows strongest in adversity, and adversity is the birthplace of wealth. The most powerful habits are not the ones you do consciously. They are the ones your subconscious executes automatically, without debate, without delay, without needing permission. Most people fail because they never program their subconscious. They try to live by willpower alone, and willpower is a muscle that tires quickly. But when you embed Hill's habit code into your subconscious, discipline becomes reflex. The 80% rely on weak willpower. The majority live in constant negotiation with themselves. Should I do it now or later? Do I really feel like it today? Maybe I'll start tomorrow. Every question drains energy. Every debate weakens action. That's why they give in, because their subconscious has no code to run. The 20% program their mind. The disciplined few do something radically different. They reprogram their subconscious through autosuggestion and repetition. They speak affirmations daily, drilling identity into their nervous system. They visualize results until the brain treats them as inevitable. They repeat actions until those actions stop being choices and start being automatic. They know that the brain is a computer, and whoever writes the code controls the output. Napoleon Hill on autosuggestion. Hill emphasized, through the principle of autosuggestion, any person may rise to higher achievement by filling the mind with positive thoughts and giving them dominance over negative influences. This is not theory. This is mental engineering. The Habit Code Programming Protocol. Here's how you ingrain habits into your subconscious. 1. Affirmation statements. Write clear, present tense declarations tied to discipline. Example: I am a person who follows through daily, no matter how I feel. Read them morning and night. Speak them with intensity. 2. Visualization rehearsals. Every day, close your eyes and see yourself executing the habit flawlessly. Let your subconscious absorb the image. 3. Repetition without excuse. Repeat the action until it becomes reflex. The brain wires itself through consistency, not occasional effort. Macro-micro mind programming. At the macro level, you are reprogramming your entire identity. At the micro level, you are feeding your subconscious commands every single day. And over time, your subconscious will stop asking permission. It will execute discipline by default. Your next step. Stop trying to fight your subconscious with raw willpower. Start training it with Hill's method of autosuggestion. Because once your subconscious runs the habit code, failure isn't even an option anymore. You'll act automatically, persist naturally, and build wealth inevitably. Execution is the first stage of discipline. But the real breakthrough comes when your system starts feeding back into itself, when every action generates proof, and every proof strengthens your identity. Most people fail because they never track their habits. They rely on memory, on feelings, on vague impressions of progress. But what you don't measure, you can't improve. Napoleon Hill's habit code becomes unstoppable when you add feedback loops. The 80% lie blind. The majority stumble because they fly without instruments. They don't track what they're doing. They forget small wins. They underestimate how often they quit. And because they lack data, their subconscious defaults back to excuses. Without feedback, discipline fades. The 20% measure and reinforce. The disciplined few treat feedback as fuel. They log daily actions, not just outcomes. They track streaks to prove consistency. They review progress weekly to refine and recommit. This constant reinforcement creates a feedback loop. Habit proof, stronger identity, more habit. Napoleon Hill on evidence. Hill reminded us, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Belief is not built on imagination alone, it is built on evidence. Tracking provides that evidence. The feedback protocol. Here's how to install self-reinforcing discipline. 1. Daily tracking. Keep a log of every habit you complete. One checkmark is enough. Proof beats memory. 2. Weekly reflection. Review your progress. Celebrate the streaks, analyze the gaps. This keeps the system honest. 3. Public proof. Share milestones with a trusted circle. Accountability magnifies identity. 4. Reward evidence, not effort alone. Celebrate completion of the action, not just feeling motivated. The brain learns to crave execution. Macro-micro feedback. At the macro level, feedback tells the story of your discipline over time. At the micro level, each checkmark whispers, I am consistent. I am disciplined. I am inevitable. Those whispers compound into an unbreakable belief system. Your next step. Stop leaving your discipline invisible. Start tracking it until the evidence of your success is undeniable. Because when your habits are measured, they don't just execute, they reinforce. And once the loop locks in, success isn't a possibility anymore. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Discipline alone can take you far. But discipline multiplied by accountability creates a force you cannot escape. Most people fail not because they don't know what to do, but because they try to carry the weight of transformation in silence. They quit in private, they hide their failures, and they collapse without witnesses. And when no one sees you, no one can call you out. No one can push you. No one can remind you that you said you wanted this. That silence kills more dreams than lack of opportunity ever could. Napoleon Hill understood this principle and called it one of the greatest forces for success, the Mastermind alliance. He discovered that when two or more people come together with a shared purpose, something invisible is created, a new mind, a force of accountability and creativity that neither could access alone. This is not just support. It is pressure. And pressure is the crucible where discipline is forged. The isolation trap. The majority stay trapped because they choose isolation. They whisper promises only to themselves. They quit without consequence because no one knows they even started. They cycle through goals in secret, forever beginning again, forever excusing themselves. They think privacy protects them, but in reality, privacy protects their excuses. No one can see when they skip the workout. No one can call them when they break the streak. No one knows when they fall back to comfort. And so, comfort always wins. The accountability advantage. The disciplined few, the 20% who rise, do the opposite. They expose themselves. They make their commitments visible. They surround themselves with people who will not let them quit quietly. They raise the stakes of failure so high that excuses become too expensive. They declare their goals out loud. They find partners who ask hard questions. They make quitting visible, and therefore unbearable. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because you cannot always trust your own voice in moments of weakness. But when others are watching, when a circle is depending on you, your discipline gains a backbone you could never grow alone. Napoleon Hill on the Mastermind. Hill wrote, "No two minds ever come together without, thereby, creating a third, invisible intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. That third mind is accountability. It is the force that sees what you don't, that demands what you fear, that pushes when you stall. Alone, you excuse yourself. Together, you expand yourself." The accountability protocol. Here's how you amplify your habit code through community. 1. Choose builders, not bystanders. Most people surround themselves with drifters, friends who normalize excuses, family who defend comfort, colleagues who justify mediocrity. If you want to succeed, you must choose builders. Find those who demand evidence of action, who don't let you lie to yourself. 2. Declare your code publicly. Accountability starts with exposure. Say it out loud, I will complete this. I will follow this habit daily. I will burn plan B and stick to plan A. The moment you declare it, you raise the cost of failure. 3. Create consequences. Accountability without stakes is just talk. Set consequences that hurt. Financial penalties, public reporting, commitments that cost if broken. Make quitting harder than continuing. Share victories, not just failures. Celebrate persistence with your circle. Every win multiplies when witnessed. And every setback is lighter when carried together. Macro-micro power. At the macro level, accountability builds culture. At the micro level, it closes escape hatches. Alone, you can whisper excuses in the dark. But when others are watching, when your tribe demands proof, quitting becomes unthinkable. Think of it this way: alone, you are tempted. Together, you are transformed. Your next step: stop hiding your goals. Stop building in secret. Stop excusing yourself silently. Declare your code. Surround yourself with people who will not let you drift. Build a mastermind that demands your best. Because when accountability locks in, discipline stops being optional, it becomes inevitable. And once discipline is inevitable, so is wealth. You've reached the end of this journey. And now you face the same truth Napoleon Hill discovered after decades of studying the world's greatest successes: most people fail, not because they are weak, not because they lack intelligence, but because they never install a system that makes success inevitable. Why most people fail? Think about the 80% who never break free. Their patterns are painfully predictable. They wait for someday, telling themselves that conditions will magically align. They ride waves of motivation, mistaking fleeting inspiration for lasting transformation. They excuse themselves at every turn, hiding behind logic that sounds reasonable but keeps them trapped. They attempt to change in silence, so when they quit, no one notices and no one calls them out. Failure doesn't arrive in a thunderclap. It creeps in quietly, disguised as waiting, disguised as delay, disguised as "I'll start later." And before they know it, years have passed. Dreams have faded. Potential has been wasted. That is why most people fail. Why you will not. But you are no longer most people. Because you've seen the truth: success is not built on chance. Success is engineered. It is structured. It is installed through what Hill called habit codes, rules you deliberately write into your daily life until discipline is automatic, until excuses have no foothold, until persistence becomes your identity. Hill's habit code. Let's revisit the principles that separate failure from inevitability. Definiteness of purpose: decide exactly what you want. Without clarity, your habits scatter. With clarity, every action compounds. Daily discipline: build non-negotiable routines. Habits that operate regardless of mood, regardless of circumstance. Persistence: refuse to stop until the results arrive. Delay is not denial. Obstacles are not failure. Environment design: surround yourself with triggers that enforce discipline and eliminate distractions that breed drift. Accountability: expose your goals. Build alliances that make quitting too costly, persistence unavoidable. This is not theory. It is a system. Most people ignore it and fail. But when you install it, success stops being optional. It becomes inevitable. The nature of habits. Hill observed that habits are destiny. You don't rise above your habits, you fall to their level. If your habits are weak, your results are weak. If your habits are strong, your results are inevitable. And here's the secret: habits are neutral tools. They don't care whether they work for you or against you. If you install habits of delay, drift, and excuse, you guarantee mediocrity. If you install habits of discipline, persistence, and clarity, you guarantee wealth. That is the dividing line. That is why most fail, and why the few succeed. The cost of drift. Consider the hidden cost of drifting. It doesn't feel dramatic. You don't wake up one day and suddenly see failure screaming at you. Drift feels comfortable. You go through routines. You make excuses that sound logical. You tell yourself that you'll change when things settle down. But 10 years later, nothing has changed. You are still waiting. And that is the most expensive lie of all: the illusion that later will save you. Hill warned against this with brutal clarity. Procrastination, the opposite of decision, is a common enemy which practically every person must conquer. Most never conquer it. That is why they fail. The power of discipline. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine what happens when you install discipline as your operating system. You wake up with structure instead of chaos. You act because the code demands it, not because you feel like it. You finish because persistence is no longer effort, it is identity. This is the transformation Hill documented. When discipline becomes habit, you don't fight for success anymore. Success fights for you. Opportunities find you. Wealth gravitates toward you because you have proven yourself trustworthy to handle it. The transformation identity. This is not about willpower. It's about identity. Every disciplined act is not just a task completed, it's a vote for who you are becoming. Each time you keep your code, you cast a ballot for the identity of I am disciplined. I am persistent. I am inevitable. And when enough ballots stack, the election is won. You become the person who doesn't fail, not because you never face challenges, but because you no longer recognize quitting as an option. Napoleon Hill's eternal reminder. Hill said, "A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits." It's not talent that wins. It's not intelligence. It's not resources. It's persistence, discipline, and the refusal to stop. And you have now made that refusal. The line of division. Picture two paths. On one side, the 80% waiting, drifting, excusing. On the other side, the 20% clear, disciplined, relentless. Which side are you on? Which path do you choose? Because here's the truth, every day, you cast a vote. Every day, you step toward drift or toward destiny. Every day, you either install the code or ignore it. And the sum of those days will write the story of your life. The code installed. From this moment forward, you stop drifting. You stop waiting. You stop excusing. You install Hill's code. You build definiteness of purpose into your mornings. You build daily discipline into your hours. You build persistence into your nights. You design environments that trap you into progress. You declare your goals so loudly that quitting becomes impossible. You burn the escape hatches. You remove Plan B. You step fully into Plan A, because Plan A is the only way forward. The vision of your future. Close your eyes and imagine 5 years from now. Imagine looking back at this moment. If you continue as most people, you will see regret. You will see years wasted on waiting. You will see potential buried under excuses. You will feel the weight of knowing you could have been more, but you chose comfort instead. But if you install the code, you will see transformation. You will see wealth, not just financial, but spiritual, emotional, and relational. You will see freedom, freedom of time, freedom of choice, freedom from excuses. You will see the evidence of discipline compounding into legacy. This is not fantasy. This is inevitability, if you install the code. Your call to action. Now the choice is in your hands. Fire comment below, what's the first habit you are ready to install today? Speech balloon, declare it. Make it visible. Make it public. Accountability begins with exposure. If this video lit a fire inside you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's been drifting too long. Because most people fail. But you won't. You've seen the truth. You've embraced the code. You've chosen discipline over excuses. And from this moment forward, success is not a question of if. It is only a matter of when.